It's a bit about did they maybe grow up somewhere warm and maybe they don't want to accept that they're somewhere cold right now. I know this may seem silly, but it actually does. It can create so much insight for your readers just based off their appearance. Um, for example, if they like to wear clothes that completely cover them up, they may be a bit shy. If they wear soft colors, they may not want to stand out. If they wear like bright colors, they may want to stand out more. May be more just extroverted, which means, more into talking to people, being social. So we're going to dive into that. I'm also going to talk about some questions you can ask yourself about your character to help make your character come more alive. Um, Part of this is, what do they want? What do they really want in this life? What do they think is owed to them? What do they like the most? This could go, as far as, oh, they like when people are very honest with them because, say, in their childhood they were lied to a lot. But this could also go as little as, oh, they like orange juice over apple juice because orange juice is just more tangy to them, and they think apple juice is more serious. Or it could have no meaning beyond that. It could just be they prefer orange juice over apple juice. But the beautiful thing about this is that we get to think, a lot into who our character is and who they want to be and who we think they are. Um, so that's amazing. That's just a short way to describe characters. I'll also talk about how they speak in dialogue. So important. What words they use, what um, what they do, what their actions are. If they're nervous, do they start tapping their foot? Do they start biting their lip? Things like that is so essential to who characters are. Um, and yeah, I'll provide a lot of questions that can help you come up with this. I'll provide some exercises that can help you really determine, wait, who is my character? An example of this would be if you're really stuck on who your character is, and if you like Pinterest, you can just make a whole board about, what photo reminds you of them. And from this photo, you can see like, oh, well, maybe they're more into this. Maybe they like guitars. You can just really just have your character guide you to what photos they would like. Um, so yeah, and also what their thoughts are. Thoughts that characters have such a important role to play because they convey what they are thinking, and when you think, obviously nobody else hears that, so they can just think whatever they want, and that's a way to express what they're feeling without a veil over it. In other words, you can use their thoughts to explain what they want to say if they had no judgment on it. And then so setting can just say way more than we think. For example, if you're starting off with a character in a bad mood, maybe make it rainy that day, maybe make it stormy, maybe make the setting and the place the character is in reflect what they're feeling to just make that mood even more visible and palpable. Um, so, yeah, setting can be very symbolic. It can just say a lot about what the character is going through. It can also be very detailed. So, as you learn what you like to write, you may not focus on setting as much. Some people, like I talked about in my intro video, like Hemingway, he really liked to describe things. He really liked to talk about landscape. He would do those long run on sentences about it. And that was, totally up to him. And so it's really how far you want to go into it, but you definitely want to address setting. That is what grounds your reader. That is what grounds your character. So you always want to think about, what is my setting saying about this moment, about this character? How can I make it express more about the main purpose of this chapter? So if you want a chapter that really talks about renewal and is focused on growth of a character, have some plants in there. Have them watering plants. It may seem not that deep, for lack of better words, but it can actually be so important. Um, and it setting can be very undermined, but as we go into deeper, lessons about setting, I will express to you how um, certain words that seem like adjectives can help convey setting very well. Speaking of that, descriptions, super important. Um, we'll do a lot of comparing adjectives, seeing which ones would be better in certain circumstances or not. But you can describe things in various ways, and you can also, depending on if you're writing from, um, a third person point of view. I'm trusting that you guys know all those point of views already. Um, that adjectives can definitely alter what you convey to your reader. I'm going to talk a lot about that. So like I said earlier, we're going to talk a lot about dialogue. That is such a essential part of every book, and it's very important not to have too much dialogue or too much description and commentary. Now, again, writing, I like to say it has no rules because some books can be completely based off dialogue, can have more dialogue than anything else. And some of those books can be considered great and historic. So, but when you're starting out, you want to make sure there's a balance between dialogue and commentary, along with your plot. So, we have, of course, the structure of a plot. That is very, very helpful. Rising action, like what builds up to that climax, the falling action, what kind of gets down. And I'm not going to talk too much about this diagram. There's, I'm sure you guys have seen it in school, and there's tons of videos on it that can go way in depth about it. To be honest, I haven't used this diagram. Um, I might have used it when I was in middle school, but um, as long as I can get the general idea that it needs to be organized, it needs to be concise. I just know that there eventually has to be a climax where everything kind of comes together, or just what everything is built up to is that moment. And so we have to understand that. Lastly, I'm going to talk about how voice is really important. I talked a lot about this in my introduction, but voice is just, it's yours. Nobody else can have your creative writing voice or your writing voice. And if you don't quite understand what I mean by voice, let me tell you this example. In my English class in high school, my teacher said that, if he would pick up our papers and would not see our names, and he could tell who was writing which, and he could tell because we all have a certain way of conveying messages, and we all have a certain way of writing. Some people use run-on sentences, like I talked about with Hemingway, and some people use short sentences. Some people like to write a long sentence and then have a short sentence right after that, which is called sentence structure length variety. That, I really loved that when I was in high school because it makes the second shorter sentence stand out so much more. So yeah, you can really tell who's writing it based on who likes to do what in their writing. I'll give a list right here of different things that you can do with your writing, that you can find out, oh, do I like this more, do I like that more, and then you'll eventually have a voice. And I think also creating your own voice takes a lot of introspection and really thinking about what type of writing you like, what why you write. That's also a really important thing to think about. It's like, why do I even like writing? What does it mean to me? So I want you guys to think about that. And now there's many more basics about writing, but what I mainly went over was character, setting, descriptions, dialogue, plot, and voice. Lastly, I'll talk about objects. Now this could probably be a more like detailed lesson, but I'm just going to make a quick introduction about it because I wish I would have known this way early on. Basically, if you write a scene where your character's in their room, everything in that room should be able to tell us something about that character. Now, this may seem overwhelming, but once you start to really think of your character as a person, you're not going to be as overwhelmed. It's just going to come to you. So, for example, one of my characters I'm writing now in my book, um, she wants to kind of escape her life, and and she really likes the ocean. Now, um, I thought having her like the ocean and marine biology on top of that would make so much sense because sometimes she does feel like she just wants to escape into a world that, has these cool, amazing fishes that are so colorful, or just like kind of just be able to be at peace and just like float on the ocean and have fun and be in the sun. That's something that I wanted to convey about my character. Now, this does not mean, and I know this can sound pretty weird, but this does not mean all people who love the ocean want to escape from their realities. That is not what I'm trying to say. Some people do. And her mom, this character of mine, her mom passed away while giving birth to her, and she really liked the ocean. So that's also why I have her room, a light blue. Have basically just a lot of objects that show her love for the ocean and marine animals. So I have a framed photo of her at, an aquarium, or I have like her drawing of her favorite fish, and it can be as simple as just having, a little poster that shows a wave, or one of her favorite songs that's, a CD laying out in her bedroom that has a title that's related to the ocean or the sea. Or she has a cup that she got from her best friend, that has like the sea as the image around the cup. That's the design. And then I can also connect her best friend with that, and it can be like, by from Delilah, happy birthday. So all those certain things you can put into the setting of somebody's bedroom, right? Or anywhere, their office, their bedroom, their safe space. So that's what I'm really trying to convey with objects, is that every single object you have in your room, you have a story of why you got that. At least for me, I do. Um, you know, I have this mug right here. It says from Strand. I got this mug when I was a freshman, when I came to NYU, and that was when I first found out about Strand, and I love books. So I, of course, went, and I wanted this to be just like my little coffee cup where I have my coffee in every morning. And so, what does that say about me? It says I like to go to bookstores. It says I like coffee, or maybe tea. I don't have to have coffee in that, but I'm it's just and I'm sorry if this sounds super overwhelming, but I just want you right now, if you're in your room or if you're in somewhere where you put a lot of your personality into, just look around, see whatever object you can think of, just like I found that cup, and think about why it is important to you and why it expresses who you are, and write those down. During these little lessons, I'd love, if you can grab a notebook, that would be amazing, because the future lessons, I'm going to make them a bit more detailed and a bit more where you can take notes, I guess. But I also don't want to make it super where you just kind of get distracted in taking notes and then you don't listen. I personally struggled with that throughout high school. But that's kind of where we're going with it. And so, yeah, take a look around your room if you haven't done so already. If you were to describe yourself and your character, what would be 5 adjectives? And what 5 objects in your room show that? Secondly, I want you to describe your favorite place in the world, whether that's the beach you always have gone to as a kid, or whether it's your bedroom. Give me some adjectives, give me some sentences where you explain why it's your favorite place on earth. And if you don't have that favorite place on earth yet, just let me know, like, in your head, where would you want to go right now? Whether that's the Maldives, whether that's Hawaii, Switzerland. Maybe just imagine it and describe it. And if you're stuck, look up a YouTube video of that setting, of that place. Get inspired by some of the photos. Just get inspired. Write down snow, this, that. What does snow remind you of? Why do you like snow? What does it look like? So that's something there. For descriptions, take one object in your room or wherever you are right now and write 5 things about it. Now, this doesn't have to be directly correlated to your character, but I want you just to try to describe it. Describe it with love, with dislike, with appreciation. Just describe it. Or you can just describe it factually. It's this color, it's this. But what does that color remind you of? Does it remind you of, if it's red, does it remind you of the red bird you see outside of school every day? Just talk about it. Just really dive into it. Plot. Maybe think of some stories and books you've read in the past where you really liked how the plot went. Was it surprising to you? What did you like about it? Just stuff like that. What did you like about it? Would you write a story like that one day? Why or why not? What does that show about your voice? And secondly, or not secondly, but lastly, an exercise about your voice. I just want you to think of anything, think of everything, and write 2 sentences about it. Now, this is super ambiguous, and you may be being like, Brea, how do I even do that? I can't come up with anything right now. With all that I've told you so far, you can use some of those tools to help you, come up with something like, YouTube or inspirational photos or Pinterest. But I really just want you to think and sit. If I can write 2 sentences right now, what would it be? And how would I write them? Very ambiguous, all up to you. So guys, that is the basics of creative writing. There are many more, but these, let's see, characters, setting, descriptions, dialogue, objects, plot, voice, these seven like subtopics of creative writing, and these 7 tools of creative writing I'm going to focus on in my upcoming lessons, and then we're going to dive deeper. But please know, there's so much more into creative writing than these 7 things. And I just gave you a brief introduction. And I also want to say lastly that a lot of the basics of creative writing, like the very basics, like, first person perspective or third person, or this diagram, I'm not going to get too much into. I'm going to mention it, but I'll always leave a definition of it down in the description box of the YouTube video. And I'll also put in a link to a video that I think goes way more in depth than I'm going to. And it'll help explain it if you're stuck on it. Personally, with this video, I'm just kind of assuming you know it. And if you don't, that's awesome, because then you get to discover something new about creative writing. And I will help you learn that, and I will help you add on to it. So either way, it's great. And either way, we're going to have so much fun with all these lessons. And I'm going to try to incorporate just like fun little visuals. And again, there's that Google form up in the bio. So let me know what you guys want to see more of, or, if what you don't like about my teaching style. I'm always open to, I'm forgetting the word, but it's basically like criticism that is not for just to be, I guess, rude, but to be, constructive criticism. I want to hear what you guys like and don't like. I want to hear your suggestions. And I'm so open to constructive criticism, because as a writer, it should be one of your goals, starting as a child, to really know that whenever anybody gives you constructive criticism, it is only for your benefit. Now, we can tell when some people are doing it out of jealousy or just whatever, but I really have learned, which is hard for me because I'm a very sensitive person, but I've learned to take in every piece of advice and feedback I get and just use it to improve. So, yeah. Well, congratulations. You made it to the first lesson, or you finished it. So this was really fun for me, and I'm really excited to go into lesson 2. Thank you all for watching.